This intense combat scenario is the cornerstone of Sifu, a third-person brawler released in 2022 by Slowclap. In it, you are a kung fu student whose father was murdered by a gang of his former students, and after 8 long years of training, you now seek revenge against them for his death. Sifu is a game of failure, repetition, and eventual success. It's single-minded in its approach to game design, an intricate simulacrum of kung fu martial arts. It offers players little more than a variety of environments and situations to beat a gang of thugs to a pulp, and it does so to great effect. Fighting, and moving from fight to fight, is the bread and butter of Sifu, but it does not grant victory readily. Make no mistake, Sifu is difficult, and perseverance will be necessary to reach its end. Its 5 levels each provide a unique setting for you to get clobbered, and the enemy intensity, volume, and variety only grow with each past stage. Sifu starts you as a pristine 20-year-old, unsullied by the trials before you. Your moveset is small, your skills are undeveloped, and your experience is 0. Getting a hang of the controls is the first step to competency, and fortunately, Sifu works on a simple light and heavy attack control scheme that can sequence to a variety of combos. The initial gangsters of the first level, the squats, have little recourse to deal with new players simply mashing the buttons in hopes of just brute forcing their way through. The apartments are littered with junkies and drug dealers that are mere cannon fodder even to a beginner. However, as players progress further into the compound, this strategy will cost them their youth. Each time the player dies, they age by the number on their death counter, meaning time becomes a finite resource they spend to compensate for their mistakes. Year after year will pass through their body, as basic attacks soon become blocked by foes, and their structure is broken by the heavy attacks from the strongmen. Frustration sets in. More button mashing. Some lucky hits, but mostly death. Time will quickly pass, and you could easily be an old man by the time you reach the first boss, Fahar. If players manage to finish him off in the senior body, they'll quickly realize they retain their age when they reach the second level, the club, and a single death may very well end their game. Time is the currency of Sifu, and the price of your spilled blood is paid with it. It is ultimately the yin and yang that balance your experience with the game. Each death increases your age and death counter, adding pressure. Successfully finishing encounters lowers the counter, offering relief. There would be no relief without the pressure of aging, and the pressure of aging would be meaningless without the relief of playing well. Pressure will mount the older and older you get, unless you actively seek to change your ways. Youthful inexperience often leads to overconfidence, after all, an unfortunate reflection of the real world. However, as soon as players find the block button, they can actually start to learn how to balance their yin and yang. Kung Fu is a dance of maintaining one's own composure, while trying to break their opponents. Structure in Sifu is the term for this composure. It's a second health bar that allows you to go in for a knockout on a broken enemy, or for an enemy to deliver a devastating blow to you. Structure is vital, and it segregates those who respect it from those who do not. Deflecting and parrying attacks avoids damage to your health bar, and instead builds structure damage, and more importantly, deals damage to your opponent's structure. You can theoretically finish Sifu by never throwing a single punch, and instead parry everything to break your opponent's structure. On the other hand, avoiding will dodge enemy attacks, and successful avoids regains your structure. Once the value of deflecting, parrying, and avoiding is learned, each fight is a conversation of strikes, blocks, dodges, and retaliations. Patterns emerge. Seemingly random moves transform from a blur to a sequence. Hit, hit, parry, parry, thrust. At first, Sifu will seem overwhelming and impossibly fast, like individual drops of rain in a rainstorm. But the more skilled the player becomes, the more they learn to speak the language, the slower time will seem to move. Those previously random moves not only become perceptible, but actionable. A death to a surprise overhead kick transforms from a smear to a sharp lesson to avoid that next time. The more you get hit, and the more you see, the more you learn. The more you learn, the better you become. Real competency takes shape from practice and perseverance. A rhythm begins to make itself heard within the hands of the player. Suddenly, you are making fewer mistakes, and you surprise yourself with moves you didn't know you had. Your ears tune in to the thumps of the dance floor of the club, and the room is littered with bodies of knocked out partygoers and security guards before you know it. Welcome to the flow state. In flow, it is like you become aware of every drop in the rainstorm. Combos emerge and enemy priorities become known to you. Instinct takes over and guides your hands. You make plans in your head about what you'll do next, and then execute on them. Flow in Sifu is the expression of competency with its combat system. With some luck, the game rewards your competency with a high multiplier and a higher score. Score can be spent on shrines found throughout levels, and good scores allow you the greatest range and choice of increasing structure damage, focus regain, and structure recovery. In essence, the game rewards good play with good bonuses, and makes encounters and bosses easier. And good play you'll need, as the bosses of Sifu are the large barriers that truly test your progress. Fahar, Shan, Kuroki, Jinfeng, and Yang all demand specific skills and techniques from the player in order to beat them. Each of the virtues of Sifu are taught by an appropriately themed adversary. The botanist Fahar strikes quickly with a flurry of kicks and rapid strikes, teaching you to parry his easily deflected moves, reflecting a botanist's need to be proactive in tending to their flora. The fighter Shan utilizes a bow staff to deliver slow but heavy sweeps, teaching avoidance with his long windups, as the most important lesson in fighting is to avoid getting hit. The artist Kuroki dons a bladed 3-section staff that cannot be deflected, teaching distance and patience while waiting for an opening, reflecting the patient nature of an artist and the many years it takes to perfect a craft. The CEO, Jinfeng, wields a weight and chain that punishes distant attackers, teaching aggression and capitalizing on opportunity, reflecting her identity as a successful businesswoman who has built an empire. And finally, the leader, Yang, boasts your own moveset and therefore demands harmony of all lessons, coalescing into a suite of tools to overcome him and win the game. Again and again you will be beaten by the trials the 5 levels present. The squats and the club likely take your youth, locking you out from the skills only available to the young. The museum and the tower will take your middle ages, growing your anger further by the opportunities that continue to pass you by. The sanctuary will take what's left. Likely an old man you will reach Yang, and with the few years still on your pendant, best him at his own craft. All 5 bosses down, all 5 levels beaten, you've won. But have you? Have you really? Are you really supposed to finish the game an old man, having poured your life into a quest for revenge? Fueled by anger and frustration by the punishing gangsters and bosses of the game? Was all your training and practice and perseverance simply to live out the rest of your short life? Depending on the type of player you are, you might call it quits there, satisfied with your Pyrrhic victory. But the game has one final challenge for you.
He who has Gong Fu and Wu De makes the other know he can break him. His hands go out like lightning, and the other doesn't want to fight anymore.
At this point, your accrued wisdom may have opened your eyes. Wu De is the term in Kung Fu philosophy of martial virtue, It is true respect and compassion for one's opponent, a sort of enlightenment that one can only attain after spending so long training and practicing. All Kung Fu martial artists are taught with Wu De in mind. Each fist forward, each leg back, imbued with discipline, humility, respect, and compassion for your opponent. It is this philosophy that is the heart of Kung Fu. Your first playthrough of Sifu will no doubt be absent from Wu De. Anger, frustration, and vanity drive you through each level, outraged by every mistake and every year that's grafted onto your lifespan. That thinking may take you to the end of the game, but it is Wu De that will take you to satisfaction with it. After the final cutscene fades to black, the player is offered a second chance. You begin again at the ripe age of 20 at the very beginning. Your unlocked skills and shrine bonuses reset, but you can start again with all the knowledge and wisdom you have gained since you started your journey, as well as an option to spare each boss instead of killing them. Sparing takes extra effort since you must restrain yourself from going for the finisher and break their structure twice during the second phase. Playing the game again with Wu De in mind transforms it. The player returns to familiar locations and encounters with open eyes. Decades are shaved off from the squats and the club. New techniques can be utilized on old foes. Old grievances are painted over with a fresh coat of wisdom. Practice and time with Sifu subconsciously teaches the player to not only overcome its challenges, but to overcome their own way of thinking. Fighting, deflecting, avoiding, moving, mastering engagement and retreat, crowd control, and single target focus, flow state, respect for your opponent, true understanding. Sifu is a lifetime of Kung Fu philosophy and practice, condensed into a single hands-on experience. Its sole focus is to beat you down until you learn to rise above yourself when you started it, not through anger or hatred, but through perseverance and wisdom. That is how true martial virtue is attained. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. This has been Game DNA. Keep playing and keep learning.